Has Denis Villeneuve achieved the impossible with Dune Part 2? This is not just another sci-fi sequel. It's the film that makes The Godfather Part 2 look like amateur hour when it comes to improving on its predecessor. From jaw-dropping sandworm riding sequences to a performance from Timothée Chalamet that will silence even his harshest critics, this is the rare blockbuster that respects your intelligence while melting your eyeballs with spectacle. If you enjoyed our deep dive into the first Dune film on this channel, you're about to witness how a master filmmaker takes an adaptation from impressive to legendary. Introduction. Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2 stands as a monumental achievement in contemporary cinema, completing the adaptation of the first half of Frank Herbert's seminal 1965 novel with breathtaking visual artistry and narrative confidence. Released in March 2024, this eagerly anticipated sequel continues the saga of Paul Atreides, following the devastating fall of House Atreides on the desert planet Arrakis. Where the first film methodically established Herbert's complex universe, Part 2 accelerates into the heart of the story, delivering a tale of revenge, political intrigue, religious manipulation, and ecological awareness that resonates powerfully with our current world. Narrative and adaptation. The film begins precisely where its predecessor concluded, with Paul, Timothée Chalamet, and Lady Jessica, Rebecca Ferguson, having found refuge with the Fremen after the Harkonnen attack that decimated House Atreides. Villeneuve maintains remarkable fidelity to Herbert's source material, while making necessary cinematic adjustments that streamline the dense philosophical content without sacrificing its intellectual weight. What distinguishes Villeneuve's adaptation from previous attempts is his willingness to embrace the novel's complexity. The screenplay, co-written by Villeneuve and John Spites, balances multiple narrative threads with exceptional clarity. Paul's integration into Fremen society, Jessica's manipulation of religious prophecy, Baron Harkonnen's schemes, Emperor Shaddam IV's political maneuvering, and the ecological transformation of Arrakis itself. The film brilliantly navigates the challenging middle portion of Herbert's novel, where Paul's transformation from exiled duke to messianic figure could easily have become tedious exposition. Instead, Villeneuve crafts this evolution as a visceral, morally complex hero's journey, punctuated by moments of genuine doubt and haunted by premonitions of the holy war that Paul sees spreading across the universe in his name. The narrative's pacing represents a significant improvement over Part 1. Where the first film deliberately took its time establishing the world, Part 2 maintains a more dynamic rhythm, alternating between intimate character moments and spectacular set pieces with confidence. This creates a film that, despite its substantial 166-minute runtime, never feels sluggish or indulgent. Visual storytelling and world building. If Part 1 introduced us to the harsh beauty of Arrakis, Part 2 immerses us completely in its ecosystem and culture. Cinematographer Greg Fraser returns with an expanded visual language for the desert planet. The palette has evolved. Where the first film emphasized cool blues and stark contrasts, Part 2 introduces warmer tones that reflect Paul's growing connection to the desert and its people. The film's visual storytelling is masterful in its economy. Complex political and religious concepts are conveyed through composition and symbolism rather than exposition. The Fremen Sietchs, underground communities, are realized with extraordinary attention to anthropological detail. Production designer Patrice Vermette creates living spaces that feel genuinely evolved from centuries of adaptation to extreme environmental conditions. Every aspect of Fremen life, from water reclamation technology to communal rituals, conveys a society shaped by scarcity and survival. Villeneuve's approach to action sequences deserves special mention. The sandworm riding sequence, a moment fans of the novel have long anticipated seeing on screen, is executed with breathtaking technical precision and emotional resonance. More impressive still is the raid on a Harkonnen spice harvester, where Villeneuve orchestrates a complex battle sequence that serves as both thrilling spectacle and crucial character development for Paul. The film's visual effects seamlessly blend practical and digital elements. The sandworms remain awe-inspiring creatures, rendered with a physicality that makes their massive scale believable. The ornithopters, flying vehicles, move with mechanical authenticity that grounds the science fiction elements in physical reality, sound design, and musical score. Hans Zimmer's score builds upon the foundation established in the first film, expanding its sonic palette to incorporate Freeman musical motifs. The percussion-heavy compositions that accompany desert sequences create a powerful sense of rhythm that mirrors the ritualistic aspects of Fremen society. Zimmer's work reaches its apex during Paul's spice-induced visions, where disorienting vocal arrangements and distorted instrumentation create a genuinely psychedelic audio experience. The sound design team, led by Mark Mangini and Theo Green, crafts an immersive audio landscape that distinguishes different environments with remarkable subtlety. The hollow acoustics of Sietch Caverns contrast sharply with the oppressive silence of the open desert. The sound of flowing sand becomes a constant motif, treated almost as another musical instrument in the film's audio landscape. Most impressive is the voice weapon, the voice of the Bene Gesserit, which is rendered with disorienting, multi-layered vocal effects that convey its power to command obedience. These sonic elements never feel like mere technical showcases, but are integrated purposefully into the storytelling. Performances: Timothée Chalamet delivers a career-defining performance as Paul Atreides. Where the first film required him to portray a privileged heir reluctantly accepting his destiny, Part 2 demands a complex evolution from refugee to religious leader. Chalamet navigates this transformation with remarkable subtlety, conveying Paul's internal struggle between embracing power and fearing its consequences. Rebecca Ferguson's Lady Jessica undergoes an equally complex journey. Ferguson masterfully portrays Jessica's conflicting loyalties, to her son, to the Bene Gesserit sisterhood, and to her own ambitions. Her performance during the ceremony where she becomes a Reverend Mother is a tour de force of physical acting, conveying an internal transformation through minute facial expressions and body language. Zendaya, whose character Chani was given limited screen time in the first film, emerges as the emotional anchor of Part 2. Her portrayal balances fierce independence with growing emotional vulnerability. Zendaya and Chalamet develop a chemistry that makes their relationship feel authentic rather than predetermined by the plot. Stellan Skarsgård continues to bring menacing presence to Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, though the sequel gives him more dimensions than the purely monstrous figure of Part 1. His scenes with Austin Butler's Feyd-Rautha Harkonnen crackle with familial tension and political calculation. Butler's Feyd-Rautha deserves special mention. His calculated cruelty and aristocratic arrogance create a perfect foil for Paul's reluctant heroism. Butler conveys Feyd's sadistic pleasure through subtle facial expressions that make his combat scenes genuinely unsettling. Javier Bardem brings gravitas and unexpected humor to Stilgar, the Fremen leader whose religious conviction in Paul as the prophesied Messiah provides both comedy and tragedy. Florence Pugh makes the most of her limited screen time as Princess Irulan, conveying layers of political awareness beneath her royal composure. Christopher Walken's Emperor Shaddam IV projects imperial authority tempered with growing fear as events spiral beyond his control. Themes and philosophical depth. What elevates Dune Part 2? Beyond spectacular entertainment is Villeneuve's commitment to Herbert's philosophical themes. The film examines the dangers of messianic figures and religious fanaticism with increasing urgency. Paul's journey is not presented as triumphant but deeply troubling, as he recognizes how easily religious fervor can be manipulated, yet finds himself unable or unwilling to stop the machinery he has set in motion. The ecological dimensions of Herbert's novel receive thoughtful treatment. The Fremen dream of transforming Arrakis from desert to paradise is presented with visual beauty, while raising implicit questions about whether such massive environmental engineering represents harmony with nature or another form of conquest. Villeneuve never shies away from the novel's critique of colonialism. The Harkonnens' brutal exploitation of Arrakis contrasts with the Empire's performative concerns about spice production quotas, illustrating how economic interests drive imperial politics regardless of which power nominally controls the planet. Most compelling is the film's examination of prophecy as political tool. The Bene Gesserit's multi-generational genetic program and their strategic planting of messianic legends among indigenous populations is revealed as religious engineering designed to serve their own interests. Paul's growing awareness that he is both beneficiary and potential victim of these manipulations creates the film's central moral conflict: technical craftsmanship. The film's technical elements deserve recognition beyond visual effects. The costume design by Jacqueline West and Bob Morgan distinguishes the various cultures with distinctive aesthetics that convey their environmental adaptations and values. The Fremen stillsuits, functional garments that recycle body moisture in the desert, are presented as both practical technology and cultural identifiers. The contrast between the utilitarian Fremen clothing and the ornate Imperial costumes effectively communicates the social stratification of Herbert's universe. The fight choreography, particularly in the ritual combat scenes, combines balletic grace with brutal efficiency. The knife fight between Paul and Jamis early in the film establishes the cultural significance of combat among the Fremen, while the climactic confrontation between Paul and Feyd-Rautha serves as both narrative resolution and thematic culmination. Editor Joe Walker deserves considerable credit for the film's narrative clarity. Handling multiple plotlines across different planets could easily have resulted in a fragmented experience, but Walker creates seamless transitions between storylines that maintain momentum while allowing each narrative thread adequate development. Comparative analysis. Villeneuve's Dune trilogy represents a significant evolution in science fiction filmmaking. Where previous landmark franchises like Star Wars drew inspiration from Herbert's work, Villeneuve returns to the source with contemporary filmmaking tools and sensibilities. The result feels both classic and modern, a work that honors its literary origin while establishing its own cinematic language. Compared to David Lynch's 1984 adaptation, Villeneuve benefits from both advanced technology and the decision to split the story across two films. Where Lynch was forced to compress Herbert's novel into a single feature, resulting in confusing exposition and truncated character arcs, Villeneuve's version breathes with purpose, allowing complex ideas and relationships to develop organically. In the context of Villeneuve's own filmography, Dune Part 2 represents the culmination of visual and thematic preoccupations, evident in his previous science fiction works like Arrival and Blade Runner 2049. His fascination with communication across different species, humanity's relationship with technological and environmental change, and the tension between predetermined fate and free will finds its most complete expression in this adaptation. Critical assessment. Dune Part 2 overcomes the middle chapter challenges that plague many cinematic trilogies and sagas. Rather than feeling like a transitional work, it stands as a complete narrative arc while setting the stage for potential adaptations of Herbert's subsequent novels. The film's few weaknesses, occasional expository dialogue that feels overly literal, and limited exploration of the Emperor's court, are minor concerns in an otherwise remarkably accomplished work. What prevents the film from feeling ponderous despite its philosophical weight is Villeneuve's evident passion for the material. His Dune isn't merely respectful adaptation, but enthusiastic engagement with Herbert's ideas, finding contemporary resonance in a 50-year-old novel without forcing modernized sensibilities onto the text. Conclusion. Dune Part 2 represents that rarest of cinematic achievements, a blockbuster spectacle of tremendous visual imagination that contains genuine intellectual and philosophical substance. Villeneuve has accomplished what many filmmakers have attempted and failed, translating the complex world and ideas of Herbert's novel into compelling cinema without simplification or compromise. The film concludes with both narrative satisfaction and thematic ambiguity, suggesting that Paul's victory may ultimately prove hollow as he confronts the consequences of embracing the very power structures he initially sought to overthrow. This moral complexity, combined with breathtaking visuals and committed performances, makes Dune Part 2 not merely an exceptional science fiction film, but one of the most accomplished cinematic adaptations in recent memory. In the modern landscape of franchise filmmaking, where intellectual property is often treated as mere commercial opportunity, Villeneuve's Dune represents a more ambitious approach, one that respects audience intelligence while delivering profound spectacle. It sets a new standard for what ambitious science fiction cinema can achieve when guided by a director's clear vision and genuine engagement with substantive ideas. If you enjoyed this analysis, you've likely already seen our in-depth review of Dune Part 1 on this channel, where we explored how Villeneuve masterfully laid the groundwork for this spectacular conclusion. The two reviews together offer a comprehensive examination of what may be the most significant science fiction adaptation of our generation. What should we review or recap next? The choice is yours. Drop your suggestions in the comments below, whether it's another epic sci-fi saga, an underappreciated indie gem, or the latest blockbuster that has everyone talking. Your engagement helps shape the content on this channel, and I read every comment. Subscribe for more reviews that go beyond surface-level criticism and truly dissect what makes great cinema work.